What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 3, Episode 35. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Havlak. Mark, we got a lot going on in the NHL despite the season being over and the offseason just starting up. Before we get into all of that, though, what's going on with you?
Dude, not too much, man. I've just been kind of following along. It's been absolute chaos so far in the NHL. Like, some people were saying it's going to be the busiest
Yeah.
offseason. Like, I'm really starting to believe it now. Like, the Cup was just won a week ago, and we've already had a bunch of different things happen. It's exciting to see, though. Besides that, I mean, been watching the Jays a bit. I've been pretty dialed into the World Cup as well. Some pretty interesting games recently. Like, I can't believe that Cape Verde team hasn't lost a freaking game yet, man.
Yeah.
They've already tied 2 games, one of them against Spain, Uruguay. So pretty impressive. But I feel like these major tournaments, like even look at like the Olympics and World Championships, like there's always kind of like a good story, right? There's like a team that just pops out of nowhere and does really well. And I guess that's them this year. I mean, what's going on with you, dude? I feel like you're probably pretty dialed into the World Cup too.
Yeah, I've been pretty dialed in on the World Cup, and the thing that makes it so interesting that you mentioned with the whole, like, there's some teams that have some kind of Cinderella stories going on, or there's teams that have maybe some cool stories where they're overperforming. The coolest thing about that is the World Cup, like the amount of teams were expanded for this World Cup compared to previous World Cups, right? So some of these teams that have these cool stories going on, like previous years, if it was under the same rules where the same amount of teams went, like some of these teams wouldn't even be at this year's World Cup, right? But with the new rules, they are, and all of a sudden, it's like you're seeing some upsets, or you're even seeing some teams that are like getting draws where it's like just even picking up that 1 point is like massive for them, right? Like I don't know if you saw the thing with that Cape Verde goalie. Like, have you seen his Instagram like followers thing or no?
Wasn't it the Curacao goalie?
Yeah, actually, I think it was that
The
one.
guy who made 15 saves a couple of days ago?
Yeah, dude, he had like 50K followers going into that game. By the end of the game, I think he was at like 5 million followers on Instagram. He
Yeah,
literally like,
that's pretty crazy.
yeah,
They played Germany the first game, and even though he let in 7, I actually thought he played pretty well in that game too. With the expanded format, like, were you almost anticipating that like it was going to be watered down a little bit? Just because like there's a lot of teams that like either haven't been in the tournament in a while or it's their first time. I mean, there have been a couple blowouts, but I don't think it's been as much as I would have
yeah.
thought, at least so far. And it can still happen. Like, we're still like a little bit over halfway through the group stage, but a lot of these other teams, I feel like it just hasn't been like that bad. Like there was a couple. It was a 6-0 game, it was a 7-1 game, but like it's like Spain's tying a team that they shouldn't be, like Portugal, right? So I don't
Yeah.
think it's been necessarily watered down so far.
No, I don't think it's been watered down at all either. Like the one thing that I will say does maybe hurt a little bit with the expanded format is in previous years there would always be like at least one or two groups where it's like there's a lot of good teams in that group, right? Where it doesn't maybe feel as much that way this year. It's like previous years you could end up having like England and France maybe in the same group, or like England and
Their group
Portugal,
is
right?
actually
Where
tougher, though, I think, with
it is,
Croatia and Ghana. And then
yeah,
the other one I look at is Norway, Senegal, France. I think
France is
that's a
another
very
tough one.
hard group, right? And I anticipate that there's probably going to be 3 teams coming out of both of those groups. But
Yeah,
I do agree with you. A lot of these groups, it's kind of like there's a powerhouse and then probably another pretty good team. And then it's like pretty watered down after that. But it kind of just is what it is. Honestly, I think it's better for the game with just
oh,
more
without a
countries
doubt.
being in it, right? And the fact that like Curacao got their first ever goal, and then the next game they get their first ever point. Like, I think that's just so good for growing the game.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. And the other thing too is like you're getting more eyes on it, right? Because when it comes to cheering for your country, like no matter who you are, no matter how many soccer games you've watched in your life, it's like you're probably going to be dialed in on it, right? It's the same when we talk about the Olympics for hockey. It's like if you want to grow the game, you got to go to the Olympics because you're going to get a lot of viewership on the game where you wouldn't maybe get before. That's how it is for soccer, right? It's like as big as the World Cup is, there's still ways you can grow the game across the world, right? And having these smaller nations go, it's like, man, like, could you imagine being on one of these islands when they're playing and like, let's say they get an upset? Like, man, it must be fucking unreal being there and watching the game and watching it with people at like a community area. So it's definitely fun to see. Let's get into the NHL talk though, Mark, because we got a decent amount of it today, considering where we are in the calendar year right now. The NHL offseason, it's finally heating up with lots of trades and signings. On Sunday, the Florida Panthers started off by trading Mackie Samoskevich to the Seattle Kraken for the 25th overall pick and a conditional second round pick. The Panthers pretty much then immediately used that pick along with a ninth overall pick, a 2029 first round pick, and a 2027 second round pick to acquire none other than Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators. Mark, I want to start off by looking at the Brady Tkachuk aspect of the Florida Panthers deals from Sunday. What are your thoughts on the Panthers acquiring Brady?
It's a massive move for a good player coming into their system. They gave up a lot of assets to get him. Like, I know we kind of talked about this yesterday, originally me and you, and for Ottawa, I mean, like, I don't want to say it's a head scratcher just because like he's got control over where he can go, and I think he ultimately would have ended up there, and you're probably getting the best return. And I understand that 3 first round picks like is it's a lot, like, right? Like, we can't just sit here
Yeah,
and say that it's not a lot of assets, but like the fact that like 2 of these picks are not soon, I think is a problem partially. And I think that Ottawa is probably going to go out and get another player. And we'll get into that eventually. But like for Florida with Tkachuk, like I feel like Florida had a little bit more cap space this summer than a lot of people realized because they had signed basically all their players and locked them in. And with the cap going up, they can come and bring in a player like Brady Tkachuk. Now I understand they still got to sign 2 goalies, and we don't know exactly what's going on with Bob, or maybe they pivot and sign someone else or trade for someone else. But for a team that was so dominant, went to 3 straight cup finals and won 2 of them, took a step back last year, I would say mostly probably because of injuries. Like, how can you not look at them at least now and
yeah.
say they're not the favorite? Like, I know some people are like, they are getting older, which I mean they kind of are. Like, they do have like 12 plus guys that are over 30. Like, this is kind of their time, right? Like, they're not looking at this for 2030. Like, they're looking at this for the next 3 seasons, I think, right? So their lineup is just looking absolutely stacked right now. I don't think that necessarily means like we should be gifting them the cup, because I think hockey is a very weird sport and a lot of different things can happen at times. We look at injuries. Like, would you have thought if we were sitting here on June 22nd last year that we would be talking about Florida missing the playoffs? Like, there's no way, dude. Like,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of chaotic stuff can happen. Now, I want to know your opinion on the Florida part, and then I think we'll talk a little bit more about the Ottawa part of it.
Yeah, for Florida acquiring Kachuk, it's a home run, right? Like you mentioned that the assets they gave up, like it is a decent amount of assets, but the thing about the assets is that like none of them to me are super great outside of that ninth overall pick, right? Like you're getting the ninth overall pick in this year's draft. To be honest, where they're drafting the draft, like I don't think they're getting like you're not getting a Sherlock prospect there, right? Like you're going to be getting a good prospect there, but you're not getting a guy that's going to come in immediately and he's going to be a sure thing, right? Like these draft picks, a lot of the time, it's a crapshoot, man. It's a lottery, right? So to get the ninth overall pick, like that's definitely the best part of this return. But still, like at ninth in this year's draft, like what are you going to get there? Are they going to be able to help you out this year? And
Unless
also,
someone falls, man.
yeah, and even if somebody falls, though, like I don't know.
Are you saying
I
for
don't know.
just for Florida's side of it, like if for someone to come in and make immediate impact?
Yeah, like for Florida, it's like you're in a win now mode. It's like if you're picking with that ninth overall pick, like what's it really doing for you, right? Like
Okay,
he's
yeah, I
probably not
understand
playing in the
that. I thought you
NHL.
more just meant like it's just a cold total crap shoot on like who you could take. Like, the one thing I would say is like, did
Yeah,
you guys not get Zane Parekh at 9? Like, what I'm saying is like, yeah, he might not be able to step in the NHL next season, but I think you could still get a hell of a player at 9, right? But it's like for a team that's trying to win the cup in the next 3 to 4 years, like
yeah.
that guy might not even be available for the first 2 of them. So like, I understand what you're saying, but I would disagree on the part of like you might not get a quality player, because I still think you are.
I more look at it in the sense that it's not a guaranteed thing you're getting a quality player, right? Like there is a decent chance of picking a nine to get a quality player that could eventually play. But if you're Florida and you're looking at it, it's like you're in a win now mode. So the player likely is going to be playing in the NHL next season, maybe even a season after that. And the other thing too is like a ninth overall pick is great, but a ninth, just because you're picking ninth overall, it doesn't mean there's 100% chance on that player panning out to be what you think they're going to be on draft night, right? So for Flor for Florida, pardon me, it's like if you can use that pick as a big centerpiece in a trade to go out and get Brady Tkachuk, who right now is a player in his prime and is a star player in the league, it's like if I'm Florida, I'm more than all right doing that, right? You give up a 25th overall pick as well, like that, to be honest, what was Florida going to do with that? Like maybe you trade it and you go more after the depth route. But I think Florida, for what they gave up in this deal, made out really good. The other thing too to keep in mind is that 2029 first round pick, it's also top 10 protected, right? So like even if Florida, let's say, has a season like they had last season in a couple years where they kind of have a bunch of guys injured or something goes wrong, it's like you still got some security there where if that pick is a very good pick, like you're going to hold on to it, right? So I think for what Florida had to give up, first of all, I think they're completely fine with giving that up considering how you look at their team now, and it's like what holes do they really have in their lineup? And then also it's like look at the player you're getting back. How can you not be happy with what you got back for what you gave up, right? Looking at the Ottawa side of things now, Mark, I think they were put in a very tough scenario here. And we've talked about this when Dylan Larkin requested a trade. This was a player that clearly did not want to be in Ottawa long term in Brady Tkachuk. He had a full no move clause, and he really just played his hand, right? And the Ottawa Senators didn't have a whole lot they could really do here outside of maybe wait it out, right? But how do you like the return for the Senators?
Like I sort of said earlier, like I think that three first round picks are nothing to kind of shy away about, even if two of them could be potentially in the mid to late 20s. But I still don't like love the value, considering
Yeah.
that the first is in 2029, the second is in 2030. And I know I might be nitpicking a little bit here, but like why couldn't that second round pick be the 2027 second round pick that they just got from Seattle? Like, why do they have to wait till 2030 to get a second round pick? Like that,
Um,
I understand that's like the smallest part of the deal, but like that's just one thing I kind of look at and I'm just like, why do they got to wait till 2030 to get a second round pick?
so I think the reason for that is because the second round pick they got back from Seattle is conditional. I'm not sure what the conditions are on that
The
pick,
condition is
but
basically that it's just the better of Columbus's or Winnipeg's.
okay.
It's just about
Yeah.
which pick is higher. It's not anything to do with performance or anything like that. So I know that's probably the smallest part of the trade, considering that there was three firsts and a second. But that was sort of one thing I was looking at. That you're not going to get that trade without the condition on that 2029 first. I just have a hard time that Zito wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
The 25th overall pick, it's like it has value, but I mean, it was just traded earlier in the day, and it's a guy that like Samoskevich is a first round pick. Like I will say that I don't think he's really hit his potential or probably had the opportunity to, considering how deep Florida is. But with Ottawa, it's like they're gonna probably go out and try and replace Tkachuk. Like, I don't want to say replace his playing style necessarily, because I think that's really hard to replicate. But I fully think that Ottawa's going to turn around here and maybe not right away, but at some point this offseason, use some of these picks at least to go out and get a
Yeah.
top six forward. Like, I think 100%, because I think if you don't, you're just putting yourself in a bad situation in a really hard division, right? And I mean, without Brady Tkachuk, like, say Ottawa goes in basically with this roster next season, maybe make minimal changes. Like, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, right? So I think that they really need to go out and replace Kachuk the best they can at this point. And like, even though it does suck, I agree. And like, as much as you want it to work out, like, it is one player. Like, it's not like they lost 4 to 5 players in this trade, right? Like, Kachuk is a quality player, but I mean, there are other quality players in the league. And the one thing I do wonder about with Ottawa is, I don't know if you've been reading some of the stuff that's been coming out, but apparently like the fact that he was asked about it so much, like it kind of trickled into the dressing room, and
Yeah.
even some of the players on the team didn't love that. And there was even rumors that apparently at the year-end meetings, like they were asked about Tkachuk, and some of them said that they would be okay with moving on from him because they just felt like it was such a distraction. So
Yeah.
I even wonder if this is sort of a good thing for Ottawa in the long run. Like, think about even when I know it's kind of different because it kind of happened suddenly, but like think about like when Tavares left the Islanders, right? Like everyone thought they were going to be so bad because they lost him, and they turned around, and they made the playoffs the next season, right? So I wouldn't be that shocked if something like that happened with Ottawa if they're able to somewhat replace Brady Tkachuk, because you never know with some of the noise, right? Like that team has had a lot going on recently with noise from the fan base, and even it seems like internally as well with some stuff going on with Allmark. So it's not a great situation, and they definitely didn't win the trade in my eyes, but I still think that they got enough assets back that they could turn around and do something and still have a competitive team.
Yeah, I think they got enough assets back where they can use them however they want and still be competitive. I do think though that they should have gotten more back for what they had in Brady Tkachuk. Like the big one I'm comparing it to is the Quinn Hughes trade, right? Like I'm not saying these guys are worth the same, but when you look at the Quinn Hughes trade, he was traded for a top prospect in Zeev Buium, who's a left-hand shot defenseman and could turn out to be a number one defenseman in the NHL. They got Marco Rossi, who's a no doubt third line centerman, has the upside to be a second line centerman. You got Ogren, and then you also got picks on top of that, right? Like, I'm not saying that Brady Tkachuk should have gotten the same return, but I just look at it and I find it tough to think that they didn't get a player, like a young player that can play now, or they didn't get another pick on top of what they got. Because as good as the first round picks are, it's like one of them's a ninth overall pick. That, without a doubt, is the big centerpiece of this trade. But it's like the 25th overall pick, and then that 2029 first round pick. It's like, what's the real upside on that pick? It's top 10 protected, so you're not picking in the top 10. And like, I get Florida wanting to top 10 protect that, right? But it's like likely that pick is going to be in the mid 20s. I just think Brady Tkachuk is more valuable than a ninth round pick and basically two picks in the 20s and a second round pick. Like I would have liked to maybe see them get a little bit more here, or try to work out a way to get a player that can play now in your lineup,
I
right?
think the problem is though, dude, is like what does Florida really have when you're talking about like someone that
Yeah.
can maybe has made some strides to play now? The one thing I was wondering about is I would assume Ottawa didn't have a lot of interest in Samoskevich, because some
Yeah.
people were even saying like, why didn't they just like not give the 25th or not get the 25th and then just get Samoskevich? I really wonder if Ottawa was looking at it like, dude, this is another American kid. Like, we're not doing this.
And they already have a
Like,
decent amount of depth up the center of the ice too, right?
well,
So
he plays wing mostly, I think. I don't think he plays a whole lot of center, but I know they tried to get Lundell, and Florida would not
yeah.
do it. And then I also saw that they inquired about Verhage, but he wouldn't waive his no move clause. So that wasn't a possibility either. So I think they were sort of in a tough situation. I guess the other option would have been like if they went after like Luis Ryan or Rodriguez, but I don't
Yeah.
really know if that, like, does that really like change a lot? Like it does
No.
help your depth for sure, but it's like I feel like I would almost just prefer the pick. Like if it's like Luis Ryan or Rodriguez at that point, right?
And the thing that's tough for the Senators too is that like they basically had up until the draft to make this trade, because if you go past the draft, it's like, well, okay, maybe then Florida throws in whoever they draft ninth overall, if they even draft ninth overall, right? Because there's a possibility they go, okay, fuck it, like we're not getting Brady right now, and we'll trade that ninth overall pick in whatever other deal, right? But like for Ottawa, like it was very clear that Brady Tkachuk A was not going to stay, and B wanted to go to Florida, right? So if you're Ottawa, what are you going to do? Like, are you just going to hold on to the guy until he hits UFA and then you'll lose him for nothing? So like their opportunity was now to trade him, and they kind of had to. And as you mentioned as well, like it could be a good thing for him, right? Like we know that, like that locker room at last season, it did not look fun to be in there at points. to be honest, Brady Tkachuk, like I don't think he had a great season last year either, right? Like he was injured a decent amount to start off the season, but even when he came back, like it's not like he had a spectacular season, and the Senators still were able to sneak into the playoffs with having atrocious goaltending, right? So depending on how they use these assets that they got back, like I could see a scenario where they do flip things around and have a better locker room presence and are able to make the playoffs last season. It does suck though that you're trading him in division now though, and
Yeah.
that one of the teams that was out of the playoffs likely is going to be a no doubt lock to make the playoffs, right? So that does suck a fair
It's
bit.
funny you mentioned that about like him not having a great season because like as much as I like the player and he's kind of a unicorn and can do a lot of things that people don't, I will say I don't know if it's just a personal thing that I feel like ever since he entered the NHL and the expectation I've had for him, I don't necessarily think he's hit that. Like I still think that like I'm wanting a little bit more from him at times, even though he is a very effective player and can be a difference maker. I don't know if it's just like the points are a little bit underwhelming to me at times, considering like how many times has he even been a point per game? Like, is it once?
I'm looking
Like,
at it right now, and he's been a point per game player once in 2022-23 when he had 82, pardon me, 83 points in 82 games. Outside of that, his next highest was 74 points in 2023-24. And then after that, his next highest was 67 points, right? So he's been a point per game player once, and he's really only been around a point per game player twice in his career. Outside of that, like he's more a 65 point guy.
and I know that him and Matthew are different type of players, even though they still kind of have like that rat and that edge in their game. But like Matthew's a guy who's eclipsed 100 points, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like there's just been at points where I've more expecting that from Kachuk, and it just hasn't happened yet. But maybe he can go to a place and it will happen. But I have been a little bit underwhelmed with him at times. It's been me making me want a little bit more. And I just don't think there's been times in Ottawa that that's happened.
Yeah, I think that's completely understandable. Like as good of a player as he is, when he came to the league, we were expecting this guy to be like a point per game player every season, even crack like going over that, plus just the way he plays. And with him, if he's not getting that point production, like at least he's still a very valuable player. But I think we were all expecting this guy to be like a no doubt point per game player to 100 points a season guy, along with the way he plays, right? And he hasn't really fully hit that yet. But I will say, like, he is still young though, and he has a lot of seasons where he can hit this upside. And to be honest, this trade to Florida, like, given who he's going to be playing with, I wouldn't be surprised if next season he had that big season that we've all been expecting from him. I want to continue on looking at Florida here, Mark. You mentioned earlier Sergei Bobrovsky. He's going to be a UFA. Um, what do you think this means for him? Like, do you think his chances of coming back are kind of all but none now?
I wouldn't say it's all but none, but I think it does put like some pressure on Bobrovsky and his camp,
Yeah.
considering that they have been probably going back and forth with these negotiations since I would even say pre-deadline, to be honest. And I mean, they just haven't been able to figure it out. But I mean, now Florida's going down to 7 mil in cap space, and I know that even if they potentially go and replace Bobrovsky, like I mean, we didn't talk about Connor Hellebuck, but people are talking about Connor Hellebuck to go there. Some other possible goalies that could go there, they could make over $7 million. So there could be a guy like Rodriguez Luoisterainen that goes out the door that we were talking about before. But I wouldn't say it's all but done. I firmly believe that it is unlikely, though, that he's going to go back. Like, if I had to put a number on it right now, I would say I think there's about a 30% chance he's re-signing. It just really seems like of what Bob wants, Florida's not really willing to do right now, considering like he wants term and it is risky considering that he's 37. And he didn't have a great season last year either. And the one thing is too, like if you bring him back, like I think at this point, like Bob's not the goalie he was last year. Like that was an
Yeah.
outlier that probably had something to do with fatigue and the team not playing well. And I mean, he just didn't perform very well either. But I will say that I don't think he's like a guy that you can trust to play 60 games and then expect to play an entire playoff run. Like, I really think whether it's Tarasov or someone else, like, I think they need a solid, like, 1B, like, that can play 30, maybe even 35 games. So Bob can get a lot of rest and be ready to go once playoffs come. So the one thing I'll say is, like, you got to worry about two guys almost. Like, it's not just Bob, in my opinion. Like,
Yep.
just because he went to the Cup 3 years in a row doesn't mean he's going to continue to do it, dude. Right? Like, you look at Vasilevsky. Like, I mean, I would say this year, like, he played pretty well in the first round, but it's like he still had some struggles too, man. Like, after going to the Cup in 3 straight years. So, I think it's definitely a concern. And I mean, we are looking at this, like, look how good this team is and, like, can they win the cup again? But, like, let's not pretend like Bobrovsky wasn't a big part of them winning the Stanley Cup. Like you
He
need
was a
good
huge
goaltending, dude.
part.
Like, or it could really hurt you. So, like I said, I don't necessarily think he's going to go back at this point. It's always possible. Like, you have until that deadline on June 30th to really negotiate without having other teams in the mix, right? But to be honest with you, at this point, I think that if Bob is actually wanting that 6-year deal at 37 years old, I think Florida's going to be moving on.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Bobrovsky, if he wants that 6-year deal, it's gonna be tough to commit to that. The other thing too is like they don't have much cap space, right? So you got Tarasov that you got to sign as well, right? Like it's not just Bob that you got to sign with this 7 mil. Like you got Tarasov and you got a couple other depth pieces that you got to sign. So you got to kind of use your money a bit wisely now. I'm leaning towards that Bob isn't coming back, and I'm also like the whole Connor Hellebuck going to Florida. Like we can stop that now. He's not going to Florida. If he goes to Florida, like I don't know what money laundering they're doing because they're not
Well, I
going to
think at this point, dude,
be
if
able
he's
to put
going
it.
to Florida, it's costing Lundell.
It's going to cost Lundell, and to be honest, they might just roll 3 lines every night because they can't afford to have a fourth line out there under the cap.
Well, they could still make it work. Like, if it was Lundell,
Yeah,
like, they would just be bringing on 3.5 in cap if that was the case. But I also, it seems like they value Lundell like crazy. And honestly, like, why wouldn't you? Like, look how hard it is to find centerman. And, like, I
yep.
understand he's hit 50 points, but it's like I think he could probably become a lower tier first line center. So I don't know if they really want to do that for Hellebuck. Like, I mean, Hellebuck is one of the best goalies in the NHL, but he is 30, 32 or 33, right? So, like, I mean, maybe they just don't see that as a good trade off for the long term, too, considering that I just said they had 12 guys over 30. Do they want to bring in another one and get rid of one of their youngest players? So, I really think at this point, I really look at Bennington, man. I
Yep,
think
that
it's
one's very
a
interesting.
very high possibility, maybe him and someone else. Like, I even wonder about Binnington and maybe they go after like Connor Ingram or something to be like a 1B guy. But I think Bob, like, if like 6 million for or whatever it is for 6 to 7 years, just because Marchand got the long deal, it's different with goalies, man. And I know Bob keeps himself in really good shape and can probably play until he's 40. It's just that if I'm going that long of a term and doing that style of a contract, like I'm sorry, dude, like you got to be giving me like under 4 million. I'm worried about the last couple of years of that deal, right? And if he is, say he's 41 and he's like a good quality backup, like if he's making under $4 million in 4 years from now, I'm probably
I'm
living
fine
with
with
that,
that.
right?
With
But
the
if
way
it's
the
if it's
cap's going
six
up.
million, like if he wants 6 million, I'd be going to him and be like, okay, you're getting 2 years. Like you're not getting 6 years at 6 million. Like I think that's a little bit insane, and I know he probably
Yeah.
feels a little bit slighted considering Marchand just came in and they gave him that deal right away. But I think it's different for goalies, dude. It's just such an unpredictable position.
Even 6 million over 2 years, like I'd still be a bit weary of that with the AAV. Like you're gonna be tight to the cap next season and not have too many moves you can make, like despite Florida not really having to make too many moves, right? But it's definitely a tough situation there in their with their goaltending right now. I want to look now at the Dylan Larkin aspect of this though, because we all know Dylan Larkin requested a trade from the Detroit Red Wings. What was that? Maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and he gave a three-team no, pardon me, a three-team trade list that he would be fine going to. One was Vegas, one was Florida, and one was the Minnesota Wild. Vegas really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They got no assets. Florida was the one, Mark, I think we both thought was likely the best destination, given the fact that they could have gotten a package maybe similar to what Ottawa just got for Brady Tkachuk. But now that Florida's already showed their hand and gone out and gotten Brady Tkachuk, and they don't have any assets, like, what do you think this means for the whole Dylan Larkin trade request saga?
I think that it's possible now that this prolongs a little bit because I think that Stevie Y is not going to kind of cave this fast. And I think he's probably looking at this a little bit differently than Staios was in Ottawa with Tkachuk. Um, More thinking that Detroit hasn't made the playoffs. He's probably really trying to get the best return out of this, right?
Yeah.
And now with Florida basically being out of the mix, like it takes a team out of it. Now I really wonder if his list has expanded and like we just haven't heard about it yet. Because even that, it's like we talked about the Vegas part. It's like I don't know what the hell Vegas could give Detroit where I'm just like really looking to do that deal. Like they're probably going to want to try and offload like Hurdle or someone else, right? Like to make the
Be like
money work
Hurdle,
for the most part.
Conley, and picks. But those picks aren't going
But
to
it's
be
like
good
how many
because they
more
don't have any
young
picks.
players that aren't in the NHL does Detroit want,
Yeah.
dude? Like I don't really know if that is like enticing me that much. Like I think I would honestly prefer to take a pick than Trevor Connolly at this point. Like I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing to do for them. And then we look at Minnesota. Like I really just start looking at that now is like that's where he's gonna go. Like
Yeah.
that because think about Minnesota apparently gave a hell of an offer for Kachuk. Like, are they just gonna pivot to Larkin and maybe take a little bit off of that offer? Like,
That's what I'd do if I was Minnesota. And honestly, if I was Minnesota as well, I'd say, well, look at what Brady Tkachuk went for. Like, I think Brady Tkachuk is definitely a lot more valuable than Dylan Larkin, just where they're at in their careers right now. Not that Dylan Larkin isn't a great player,
how
right?
much
But
more would you say though? Because the one thing I will say is like I agree, but I wonder if just the center aspect of it matters too, right?
I'd say
Like,
I'd
would you
say
take off a first round pick? Would you take off the second round pick?
I'd take off the first round pick, that 2029 one, if I was if I was to give the exact same package for Dylan Larkin, I'd take off that 2029 first round pick.
I
I
think
because
I think the difference is now though it's not like Minnesota's got a top 10 pick to give though, right? So
yeah,
like there might be just as many assets going, but maybe not as quality considering that ninth overall pick's not there. Like I would assume Urov is probably in the deal. Um, and then I mean they've got picks, man. Like Minnesota, like they're not in a bad situation. Like they only gave up the one pick for Quinn Hughes, like the first this year, right? So they can still give up their first next year as well. I'm assuming maybe Detroit's going to look to flip that for something. Like maybe it's almost like what Ottawa's doing now. Like we're talking about them going out to get a top six forward. Like maybe Stevie Y is like trying to pivot to that. Like maybe he's taking more time to be like, okay, like say I get like Minnesota's like 27 and 28 first, like can I go out and get another center with
something with
that
that.
pick like
Yeah.
right away, like almost like what Florida did with the Samoskevich picks, right? So I don't know. Minnesota, they still have some assets to give. I don't think they're like super intriguing at this point, but Stevie Y just might be in a tough situation, man. But I really think this is going to go down in like August or maybe even closer to camp. Like I would be shocked if Larkin got traded like by the draft.
Yeah, unless something comes up at the draft that you really have a hard time turning down, I do think this is going to be one that's played out. And apparently, there's been reports too that the Red Wings have no rush on things, and they're fine waiting it out, right? So I do see this saga going on for a little bit. I want to talk about the Seattle Kraken now and their kind of side of things here because we talked about how they got Mackie Samoskevich from Florida when we were talking about all of Florida's moves. For the Kraken, how do you like them going out and getting Samoskevich?
Now, we criticize Seattle a lot for like going out and getting these middle six players and kind of being in that area where they're not bad enough to be like a a top prime lottery team, but they're also not good enough to make the playoffs. Even though they did give up a first and a second here, I don't think it's a bad deal for them. Like, this is a move that I'm actually behind for them, because I think that they don't necessarily have a lot of young and up and coming players, considering
Yeah.
that they are a newer franchise. And the one thing I will say is, I think taking a gamble on Samoskevich compared to like drafting a guy at 25, I don't mind that for them at all, because that 25th overall pick is sort of still a shot at the dartboard, in my opinion. And that player is probably not coming for 2 to 3 years, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, Seattle, just looking at it from the outside, like, would you not say like they're trying to compete and make the playoffs as much as they're failing? Like, this is what they've been trying to do, right? Like, they keep signing these middle-aged, middle six players. They're trying to compete. Like, they're not looking to rebuild right now, and that move shows me that they're not at all. But Samoskevich, I mean, 30-plus points the last 2 seasons. I really think there's more to give there, dude. I think he was a really good player in juniors and growing up, and I think that there's a guy that could be a 50-plus point player and score 20-plus goals in the NHL, and I think those aren't easy to find sometimes. I know they have to sign him as well, but I honestly like this gamble. I know a lot of people are saying it's a lot. Here's the one thing I'll say. We traded for Alex Newhook a couple years ago, and I thought it was kind of a lot. It was the 31st overall pick and the 37th. This trade really reminds me of that deal. A late first-round pick and an early second. Look at it now. Like, I know Newhook,
Yep.
we're looking at it like he scored 2 Game 7 goals, but I would even say besides that, it's like he's starting to turn into a real quality player. And it's like they're not giving these picks for a guy that's 30 or 31. Like, Samoskevich is young, and
He's
maybe it might
23,
not
I
show
believe.
it this season, but I think if you give it a little bit of time, I think he's going to be a quality player. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he turned into a top 6 forward. I wouldn't at all. But if not, you're getting a really solid middle 6 player. And I know with Seattle, you're like, oh my God, they got tons of those. At least he's young, right? At least he's young and he's got potential. You're not betting on a 32-year-old here. So overall, it might be a lot to give, but I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, for everything you said there, I agree with you, and I like the pickup for Seattle. The other thing too is now that he's not playing in Florida, like he's gonna be given some opportunity here in Seattle, right? So if he's given this opportunity and he's able to kind of capitalize on it, right? Like he's just gonna gain more and more opportunity. Where in Florida, it's like if he performs good, it's like, well, you got Matthew Tkachuk, you got Verhaeghe, you got Brad Marchand, you got Sam Reinhart all on the wing, right? So it's like, whose spot are you taking? Where here in Seattle, like if he's playing well, there's a lot of spots there that he could take, right? Like he can really earn his money here in Seattle if he performs well. I really do like this move for the Kraken. And as you mentioned, like with a 25th overall pick right now, like what do you like? Who are you getting that's going to help you out? Like you're getting a guy here in Semoskevich that can help you out now and also does have that upside, right? So it is a good move for them.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I don't think Florida, like he was never going to get that opportunity. His best
yeah,
opportunity he got was when all those guys were injured last year. And I mean, I thought he actually played okay for the most part. Like he's also like he can score goals. He's got a good shot, but he's actually like pretty physical as well at the same time. He's not like a huge threat like physically, but he does like impose his will physically, right? So it's like another intangible of your game, right? It's almost like a lot of these players, I look at them that are so skilled, it's like when you're not playing to that potential, when you're scoring and able to produce points, like are
what
you
else are you doing?
irrelevant or do you have a B game? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like good quality NHL players find their B game. And I think he's a guy that can be a really solid player. It's just like, is this going to be a guy that is a top 6 forward and the trade does look really good? Or will he just be a 30 to 40 point guy? Like, I don't really know. But the one thing I will say is I don't think it's fair to be like, they traded for a middle 6 forward. What are they doing? I don't think this is a guy that we've seen enough of yet to really judge that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to talk about their other business that they got done over the weekend. They signed Bobby McMann to a 6-year deal with an AAV of 5.75 million. McMahon had a career high 29 goals and 46 points playing between Toronto and Seattle last season. What are your thoughts on the signing here for McMahon?
So we talked about like the middle six forward kind of jam with Seattle. They do have a decent amount of free agents though. Like Schwartz seems like he's heading to market. So is Tolvanen. They did lose Marchment last year as well. Now Bobby McMann is a guy that I think I wouldn't say he's a top six forward. He's probably in that middle ground where he's a solid middle sixer, but he seems like he's sort of getting better every year. And I know he is 30 and there is probably like a limited amount of time where he can stop growing, but I don't know about you, dude. I just felt like he looked pretty good in Toronto. And when he got traded, like he kind of played really well with the Kraken
Yeah, he
right
did. He
away and
got
he
off
was
to a hot
scoring.
start.
I think this contract's pretty fair. Like I don't look at it as like a massive overpay or like they got him on a gamble. Like I think if he's doing what he's doing right now and scoring around 30 goals a season, like this contract's not really going to be a problem. But I mean, it is another guy that's just sort of like the middle of your lineup. Like I know the Kraken struggle to score goals, and that's probably one thing they're looking at. Like he can score goals, right? And he can help us in that aspect. And I think he can be really good. It just depends what type of player we're getting. Like, is he going to continue to kind of progress and score goals and be a difference maker? Or is his play going to drop? And like, maybe we're going to see like a 20 goal Bobby McMann instead. And then I think that contract's a little bit more of a worrisome, but I would say out of like the middle six guys I've seen them sign and deal with, I'm not as bothered by this. Like
Yep.
I think it's pretty good actually because they don't score a lot of goals and he can score goals
He's also a bigger body too, right? And like we've seen it where he's not afraid to kind
fast
of
as well.
get a little physical. And I think 5.75 million is it's fair for him too, right? And with the cap going up, it's not going to hurt so much on the back end of the years. And he's also signed till he's 36, right? So you don't really have this big worry about him being signed till he's like fucking 38 or 40 years old, where it's like, oh, this could look really ugly towards the back end. It's like with the cap going up towards the back end, I don't think it's going to look bad at all. I think this is a decent contract for a middle six player. And I'm kind of curious if Seattle is really trying to go after some of these middle six guys because Jared McCann is entering the last year of his deal. And I wonder if Seattle's looking at that and they're like, man, if we retain 50% on him, we could get a haul back for him come trade deadline, right? So I do wonder if they're maybe trying to fill out some guys to potentially find a replacement for Jared McCann. I will say I'm looking at the Bobby McMann contract right now, and I find this absolutely crazy. He is now the third highest paid forward on the Kraken at 5.75, which is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. If you were to put him on, if you were to put him on the Florida Panthers, he's probably the third lowest paid forward.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do still though. Like they got Alexiak's UFA, Schwartz, Tolvanen are going. Like
Yep.
I don't really know exactly what their plan is here. I still sort of believe that they're going to throw the bag at Alex Tuck.
Samoskevich is a
Yeah, Samoskevich is an RFA as
yep.
well.
Staying in Toronto, I want to talk about them because they had some big news earlier on in the weekend or late last week. The Leafs worked out a sign and trade for Darren Raddysh. The Leafs traded a fifth round pick to the Tampa Bay Lightning and got Raddysh on an 8-year deal with an AAV of 8.5 million. Mark, what are your thoughts on the signing? Because really the trade was a whatever trade.
Yeah, I think the trade was basically just to kind of get the eighth year in
Yeah.
that deal from Tampa. Um, honestly, dude, I think it's a good gamble for Toronto. Like I know he's 30 years old and he hasn't necessarily um, been in the NHL super long. He's been a really late bloomer, but he got an opportunity last year with Tampa when Hedman was going down, and he definitely made the most of it. I think that the contract, like someone was probably going to give him something like this. Like it wasn't going to be the eighth year. Like if he did actually hit the market, I was kind of thinking maybe he's going to get a 7-year deal around 9-ish, which is probably around the same earnings wise. But if you're just looking at it like for the Leafs and what they need, like they need something like this, man. Like they don't have that number one power play quarterback. Like Morgan Riley has not been that. Like they've tried OEL at times. Like it hasn't really worked out in the long run, right? So having a guy that can help run the power play and also has a bomb of a shot, and the other side too, it's like he's also pretty solid defensively, and
Yeah.
despite just the power play part, like he can also move the puck, which is a thing the Leafs have lacked so much. It's definitely a risk. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that $8.5 million for a guy who had his first elite season isn't going to be a gamble. But the one thing I will say is I think that this is sort of starting to be like what he is. Like, he's a late bloomer. He had to grind. He never got the opportunity. And then once he did, he's making the most of it. So I think it's a little bit different than a guy that had maybe been in the NHL since he's 22, 23 and was just consistently maybe a 30-plus point guy and then broke out. And that would be more of like a career season and maybe not replaceable. But I don't know if he's going to put up 70 points again. But I still think even if he's like in the 55 to 60-ish point range, like he's still going to be worth this contract. Like if you look at it, like even by 2030, like the way the cap is going up, it's going to be equivalent to him making like $6 million today, right?
Yeah.
So, and the other thing too, it's like, regardless of where you would rank him in the NHL amongst defensemen, like this isn't a top 10 D contract in the league right now, right? So he's not really being paid like a number one defenseman, in my opinion. And I don't think he's a number one defenseman, in my opinion. But I think that the Leafs needed a player like this, and I think it can work out.
Yeah, I think for the Leafs, it's exactly what you needed. You got your, like, they literally in this trade got the best right hand shot defenseman in the Austin Matthews era, which is crazy to say, but it's true, right? Like, what right hand defenseman has ever been this good or even like close to this good playing with Matthews? Like, fucking Zaitsev. And
No, I think
Zaitsev was
the best
not
one they've had wasn't even the
probably
Matthews era. I think it was like Pavel Kubina, dude.
Jake Muzzin, maybe. Is Jake
But
Muzzin
he's a
right hand
lefty.
shot? Yeah, like right, like it's not many people there. And with
Justin
their
Holl.
with Darren Raddysh, you're getting a guy that is exactly what you need. You have this massive hole on the point in your power play to the point that at points we're trying Mitch Marner out running the point on the power play, right? When you go back 2 seasons ago, where now you're bringing Darren Raddysh, you got your power play quarterback here for the next 8 years. I agree with you that it is a little bit of a risk just based off the fact that he's only had like one true elite season, right? Where you haven't seen you haven't seen a sample size of this over like 2 to 3 years. You've really only seen the sample size of this over one season. But as you mentioned, some team was gonna go out there and give him that $8.5 million. And for the Leafs, it fills your holes. And for what the Leafs want to do and be competitive and get back in the playoffs, like I think this is a great step in that direction. You're able to get Darren Raddysh at $8.5 million. I I
The one
I,
thing I wanted to
I
kind of
love it for the
chat with you
Leafs.
about for a sec about this with the contract part. Like I'm seeing a lot of stuff online, and I mean, we just talked about it about how people are saying it's an overpay because of the one elite season. And well, I sort of disagree with like that he's super overpaid. My question to you is like, what is the alternative? Because let's say last year he got his opportunity instead of this year, okay? And he had went out and let's say the last 2 seasons he put up back-to-back 70-point seasons and he was hitting the open market. Would it have been that crazy to say that he'd be getting like $11 million?
I think 11 would be a stretch at that point. I'd say like maybe closer to 9.5, 10.
Really? Because I think if he had done this in 2 straight seasons, he'd be getting over 10 with with no questions asked.
I could see 10. It'd be tough. It would be tough.
Because then we'd be putting him in the category of legitimate, probably being a top 10 defenseman in the NHL.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about how Makar and Hughes' contracts are coming up and Werenski, and they could be making 15 plus or whatever the heck it is. Like, would it have been that nuts to be like, okay, like he's coming off back-to-back 70-point seasons. He's making 10.5 million. Like, that's just where I'm going with this is that, like, you're talking about one season being elite, but it's like if he did it in back-to-back seasons, like, I don't think that number is 8.5, man.
when you look at some of the guys that were UFA defensemen last year and signed, right? Provorov, what did he sign for? He signed for eight
Eight
and a
and a
half
half.
mil.
That's the other thing that I'm looking
It's
at. Dude,
like,
people rip that contract
yeah,
right away, and now no one talks about it. Meanwhile, Provorov, did he even ever have an elite season in the NHL?
I don't think so. Gavrikov, what did he sign for? I think it was
7.
7. Okay, that's a bit different, but it's like you
Is
look at
it
what
though? Like it's a year later and it's $1.5 million more. I would say that's almost on par.
I'm more looking at it as a bit different because he took the discount because he wanted to go to New York. Like he probably would have gotten paid more if he didn't have that. Oh, I want to go to New York and that's it, right?
But
Like
I don't know. Maybe did Darren not do the same thing though? Like, I mean, he got the extra year, I guess, but like, if he had actually hit the market, you don't think like a couple teams would be bidding on him between like 9 and 10?
I think it would have gotten up to 9, 9.5. I don't know. I don't know if a team would have gone 10, but
Maybe
because
not
it,
for the term.
yeah, because it is tough too with him being 30, right? It's like you don't want the back end of this deal to look bad. But as you mentioned, with the cap going up, it is hard. It is hard to really predict where what the back end of these deals are going to look like, right? Because it's like he's been a late bloomer. It's like, man, like he might not have even had his best season yet, right? Like it's a guy that could come out potentially next season and have an even better one. Talking about that though, I want to ask you because like the one thing that has I
Mm-hmm.
have questioned is I've seen some people online be like, this guy's gonna like Darren Raddysh is gonna come in and be the ultimate number one defenseman next year, right? Like I've seen some people online say that. So I want to ask you though, Mark, like what do you think a successful season for him looks like next year?
I think that it 100% has to do with the way their power play operates, because I think that's going to be a deterrent on like the Leafs' success next season. Like, even though they've made moves and they look better, like, let's not pretend like this division isn't hard. Like, look how much better Florida just got. Like, sure, you might be able to take Ottawa and Boston out of it and get in, but like, it's still going to be difficult to even fight for like a top 3 spot in the division, right? So, like, I would say him producing on the power play, and their power play working out well, he's going to have to eat a ton of minutes, be really solid in the defensive zone as well. And I think if we're putting like a number on it, like, I would say he's got to get like 60 points. Like, maybe it's not 20 goals exactly like he had this past year, but somewhat close to it. Let's say like 18 goals and 60 points. Like, I don't know if he's a 70-point guy. Like, it is still a question mark, right? Like, he did play with Kucherov and some really good players, but he's also coming to Toronto and he's playing with some really good players as
Yeah.
well, too, right? So, yeah, like, I mean, if he's dropping 50 points or below, I think that's kind of a problem, considering of what he did before. But I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I really think he is going to go out and put 60 plus points up next year.
Yeah, I'm with you. If he has, I'm gonna say 55 and above point. Like if he has 55 and above points and he has, let's say, 10
Like,
plus
playing
goals.
22 minutes a night, like still playing like
Y-
good defensively.
yeah,
Because like, that's the other underrated part of his game is like, he's got a very active stick. Like, he's not super physical, but like, he can be very impactful in the defensive zone. Like, I don't think a lot of people realized last year, like, what he had those 2 seasons where he came to the NHL. I think he had like 33 and 37 points. And I mean, he's not running the first power play, right? So that's when people say like he kind of just came out of nowhere last year. Like, I really disagree. Like, I know that it's like half of what he did last year, but like, there's also a difference when you're not running the first power play, dude. Like, imagine it. Like, you look at another team and you'd be like, imagine your second power play quarterback like put up 37 points. Like,
yeah.
you'd be looking at that and be like, holy crap, like, that's actually really good, right? Like, I more looked at Raddysh and was like, before this season, I still thought he was like a number 4 defenseman and like maybe a guy that could be a number 3 on some teams. And now he's elevated to his game where he's maybe a debatable number 1 on a lot of teams, and he's a really solid number 2, right? So I think that it, I think it's gonna be fine, dude. Like, I really do. I think that giving him the opportunity, like, he's going to run with it now. And maybe I don't expect it to be for the whole duration of this contract, but I think if he can do it for at least the first 4 years and he's still playing some solid hockey after, like, it's going to be fine. Like at the beginning of last season, Cooper sat him for a couple games. Like I don't think people realize that. Like he was healthy scratch at the beginning of last year for a couple games, and then it was more like he looked like an absolute disaster the first couple games of the year defensively, and he really cleaned up his game, dude, and it really showed on the offensive side as well. So I think it's not just like, okay, the Leafs got this guy in who can like be good offensively and run the power play. Like he can be good defensively too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like he's going to be their ace back there. Like they got Tanev, McCabe's really good defensively as well, but I don't look at it as like I think he's like Bouchard with better defense. Like maybe the offense isn't quite there as Bouchard, but it's like he's a lower level offensive Bouchard who's probably better defensively.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you mentioned the whole he didn't really come out of nowhere. Like I'm looking at his stats right now, and the one thing that like makes me feel a bit safer about this contract is if he went from 37 points in the 24-25 season with 9 points on the power play to last season he had 70 points, 26 on the power play. If he had those 70 points last season and he had, let's say, like 40 points plus on the power play, then I'd be a lot more scared because I'd be like, oh, like he really just lived off that power play. Where it's like he had 26 points on the power play, which is good, but it's like it's not like he just lived off the power play and like all this production was coming from the power play, right? Like he still is a very good 5-on-5 player, as you mentioned. Like he's got a very good stick. He's active defensively. Like I think this is a good contract that's definitely gonna help out the Leafs here in trying to make the playoffs next season. I want to stay in Canada and talk about the last signing we had. We're going to go out west, though, and talk about the Edmonton Oilers. They re-signed their trade deadline target, Jason Dickinson. The deal is 5 years with a $4 million AAV. Mark, I honestly love this contract for the Oilers and for Dickinson. You're getting a guy who can play in your bottom six, and I think the AAV of $4 million, like it's more than fair. It's going to age very well for a guy who's going to be slot in as what, probably their third, fourth line center right now, kind of move around there in the bottom six. So I'm a fan of this deal. What are your thoughts on it?
I actually think it's a really good deal. I was surprised that he didn't make more money, and maybe if he did end up hitting the open market, he could make more money. I look at Jason Dickinson, and I sort of think that he's like a little bit younger version of Philip Deneau. I think he's a very good two-way player who doesn't necessarily put up a lot of points at times. Like I know he had 17 points last year, wasn't really that great overall offensively. Came over to the Oilers though. Like, I mean, he missed 2 of their 6 playoffs games, but he did have 2 goals and 3 points in those 4 games. I think with the Oilers too, it's like, this is what they've needed. They've needed a third line center that can be defensive and shut guys down. And I think a lot of people judge players based on their offensive output, and that's not necessarily fair a lot of times. Dude, are you kidding me? $4 million bucks? Like, I know he's 30. Okay, like, what are we looking at here? Like, let's say the time that he's on year 4, he's still putting up 15 points. Like, I really think he can score 30 to 40 points. Like, if he's in a decent role in Edmonton, I think that 17 is kind of just like an outlier. Like, even if he's putting up 15 points, 20 points when he's 34 and he's playing great defensively, maybe he becomes the fourth line center. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I think people are going to be shocked. I think fourth line centers are going to be worth $4 million in the next couple of seasons.
Around
Like
there, yeah.
I think if you look at this
The good
deal
ones, at
and
least.
you think it's bad and you think the Michael McCarron deal was good, I think you're crazy, because I think he's a way better player than Michael McCarron. I know that they have different skill sets. McCarron got 1 year more and he only got $700,000 less a year. Meanwhile, I think Jason Dickinson has proved a lot more in the NHL than Michael McCarron has. He's only signed till he's 35. I mean, he's not the fastest player ever, but I mean, I think Dickinson, the thing that I like about him too, that people don't realize is, dude, he plays against like top competition all the time. And I know in Chicago, you kind of have to, but I think even with the Oilers now, dude, like imagine, okay, you're going up against, You're going up against Matthews. The Oilers are playing the Leafs. You don't have to worry about Draisaitl or McDavid trying to neutralize Austin Matthews. You can have a guy like Jason Dickinson do it, right? So I think it's going to help the other top players on the Oilers and free them up a bit. Man, I honestly thought Jason Dickinson was going to get between 5 and 6 million. I really did, because I think the way the market is right now and how centers are, like, I know Charlie Coyle put up 60 points, but he's also 34 and got $6 million, right? So I thought the center market was going to be crazy this year. I think he's worth this contract now. And the cap is still going up and up. So even though we've criticized the Oilers on a lot of things they've been doing recently and that they might do, hiring Mike Babcock, it seems like, I think that this is good. I think this is a really good deal for the Oilers, because if not, they were going to have to go out and replace him. Like they don't have this position internally right now, right? This is the one guy where I'm like, you got to re-sign him. And they did. And I think it's a really good deal.
Yeah, and for the Oilers, they don't really have too many assets there to give up if they did have to replace Dickinson. The other thing, too, is like if Dickinson didn't re-sign, it's like, what centerman out there on the UFA market like you're going to replace him with? There's
it'd probably be like Scott Lawton. That's where I would be looking to pivot to. And I don't think he's the same player. I think Scott Lawton, regardless if the points are around the same, I think he's more fitted for the fourth line energy type. And I think Dickinson literally provides elite level defense as a forward. Like, I think if Jason Dickinson could put up 50 to 60 points a season, I think he'd be in the Selke conversation.
Oh yeah, he's great defensively. And then that's a real reason why Edmonton last trade deadline was willing to move on from that first round pick, right? It's like people were looking at it like, oh my God, how do you give that up for Jason Dickinson? But it's like, yeah, well, like you're just looking at his stats on Hockey DB and you're like, oh, this guy isn't a 50-point guy, where it's like, if you actually watch how he plays, like he is a very good two-way centerman.
But to be fair, it's like he's not a 50-point guy. He's never been a 50-point guy. He's always been a third-line center, and you're not paying him like he's a top 6 player anyway.
Yeah, you're paying I think it's a steal of a contract, to be honest. And when you said that fourth line centerman would be getting paid $4 million, like I could not agree more.
It's already started. McCarron just got 3.3, dude. Like we're not really far off from getting to that territory. This is we've ripped Bowman, dude, and I mean it's been well deserved, but this is not a bad deal at all. I think even if he doesn't, his points don't go back up, I think he's still going to be worth $4 million.
Mark, I want to ask you one last question here before we wrap up the podcast. Out of all the signings we've talked about today, and any signing, to be honest, that we've had over this offseason, what has your favorite one been?
Favorite in accordance to like fit for the team, or just
fit
like what I like?
Anything. It can be anything.
I think I would go with Raddysh with the Leafs. Like, I know there's a lot of risk in that deal, but I think like the upside and the way it could help the team, especially based off of like they didn't really have to give much up for him. I think it could be like the biggest difference maker in the deal. I think Dickinson's probably the best value, but I think the Raddysh deal definitely has the most upside.
For me, I'm going to go with one that we didn't talk about today. I'm going to go with Nick Delorier and his contract extension. Did you see that or no?
Yeah. The one on stage at the parade there.
That was awesome, man. That was something to see. So I'm going to go with that as my favorite contract extension so far.
You know what I was curious about that? And I wonder if they kind of like pre-planned it ahead of time. Like, could the league basically not just be like, he's not in the right state of mind to sign a contract, considering he's like dummied on stage?
Without
or like maybe they actually signed it earlier and they just kind of did that show on stage.
I think it was
like,
that.
Like that, it must have been, because realistically, there's a lot of legal implications with like signing a contract when you're like in the right frame of mind like that. I don't know if it's just kind of the nerdy side. I was just like, went to that. I'm like, is this like legal technically? Like, could they not like come after him? But I mean, I'm sure there was probably something behind the scenes that we didn't really realize. But man, I'm actually happy for the guy, dude. Like he's a tough guy. Like a lot of those guys, sometimes they just fizzle their way out of the league and become irrelevant. Like I think Delorier he's not a good player, but I mean, he's kind of like a perfect 13th forward in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I mean, for Carolina, like they are physical, but it also just brings a guy in. Like, he's going to play select games during the season, but like, when he's going to play, and when they're playing these tough teams, like, he's going to be in the lineup, right? So he just seems like a really good dressing room guy, one of the tougher guys in the NHL. And I think, like, for Carolina, like, you're getting the guy for under $1 million. Like, you can, at freaking worst, if he's that bad, you just bury him in the minors. Like, this is kind of a nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I didn't have it on the rundown for today. I'm like, hey, I want to mention it at the very end because like it was a cool story, seeing him sign at the parade. But like realistically, like it's like it's kind of a nothing contract. It's like it's good for him. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, like, what could go wrong here, right? Like you just bury him if it goes bad, as you mentioned.
I got one question for you before we wrap up. So
Hit me
with
with it.
Ottawa, like we talked about, I think that they're going to go out and make a trade regardless if it's before the draft or not. I mean, if it's not before the draft, then they're probably going to be drafting someone with 9th overall. If you were them, who would you be really looking to go get? If you want to add a top 6 or forward or a first line player
at 9th overall, or just
no, I mean if you're well, I mean you can give me your answer for 9th overall, but I was more looking like I think a couple of guys they should be looking at, like Kyrou would be a decent grab. I know Barzell's name's kind of out there as well. Like, is there a guy you're sort of looking at with this, or would you even keep the pick and draft someone with it?
So with the 9th overall pick, I'm probably with the 9th overall pick, I'd more be leaning to draft somebody with it. I'd be maybe looking at Tynan Lawrence, Ethan Belchez, maybe. I don't really think they need a defenseman. I think they're kind of good there, but if you could get a one of those guys, maybe Nikita Klepov, like that might be a bit early for him, but I would be interested in seeing them potentially draft with that 9th pick. And then I would also go out and try to make a trade, and I would use their 25th overall pick. And if you had to maybe throw in the 31st overall or the 32nd
They
overall
can't
pick,
trade
whatever,
that
they can't trade that?
because
Fuck.
of that what happened with the
Yeah.
Dadanoff thing.
Okay, well, I'd still try to use the 25th overall pick and maybe some other picks, and I'd be calling up the Blue Jackets about Kent Johnson. This is a guy that had a very down season last year, and I'd be interested in maybe taking a shot on him for the right price, dude, right? Like he's 23 years old. He was a 5th overall pick. This is a guy that had close to a 60-point season 2 years ago, right? Like he's a definitely skill player. I'd be interested in maybe trying to get him if I
What
was
about,
Ottawa.
okay, hear me out on this. 9.25 Yakimchuk plus for Robertson. And he signs an extension.
I don't know, man. I just think like I just think at that point Ottawa would be better off keeping Yakimchuk and the 9th overall pick at that point.
You think
It,
so?
it it is tough because it's like Robert Thomas is a very good player, but
No, Jason Robertson.
Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
Oh God, no, I'm not doing that. God no.
Really?
God no.
Why not?
I you mentioned the whole American player thing.
Yeah, but what if he's willing to sign an extension right away? Like, what if he's like, I'll sign a 12x8 with you?
If he's then I'd be more open to it. I would definitely be more open
Because
to
he's
it
an
at that
RFA,
point.
right? Like, he did,
Yeah.
like, I'm sure Ottawa would be like to Dallas, like, would he sign here, right? Like, I don't think they're trading for him without that. I know that's a risk,
Yeah.
but the one thing I'll say is he wasn't in that group chat with the States, so I don't really know if he's got the same mentality, right?
Gets
Um,
traded, he immediately gets added to the group chat.
would you'd be open to it though if he was willing to sign like a long-term extension? Because
Yeah,
I
I'd
think that'd be a
be
hell of a fucking replacement, dude. Like Ottawa's also struggled to score goals, and he can do that, right?
I'd be a lot more open to it at that point.
And even if it's like you got to give him 12 or 13, like I think that like even if you had to, if Tkachuk was gonna stay and you were gonna extend him, like he's probably gonna be getting
Yeah, you're
around that price tag in 2
probably
years
giving him
anyway.
about
So
that.
you may as well get ahead of it a year early. Like Ottawa's got $25 million in cap space right now. They don't really have like a whole lot to do, I would say. Like they can definitely change their roster in some ways, but Cap's not really an issue for them, right? But I was thinking about that because I was like, for Dallas too, it's like they can get some picks, like maybe they can move those picks to get someone else, but then they're also getting like a right-handed D who's like kind of almost ready, and like they've been really lacking that for some time, right? Like I was even thinking about like, do they do Batherson and something for Robertson? But then it's like, then you're also taking another top 6 forward out of kind of the mix in Ottawa, which doesn't help you a lot. But I wonder if Dallas just can't extend him because of cap, that they kind of pivot to that. And maybe if he's willing to extend in Ottawa, that could be a fit.
Yeah, because Ottawa, like they definitely have a lot of scenarios they can go down here and how they want to fill that Brady Tkachuk hole, right? Like they can do what you mentioned and do like straight up go get one player, or like they could even go and try to maybe fill it out by committee, right? So like they do have options here in what they want to do to replace this hole. Overall, though, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Next week, we'll be back. We'll probably be doing some draft reactions on next week's episode, plus talking a bit about the UFAs. To be honest, talking about the UFAs might be harder and harder now, considering that there really aren't a whole lot of great ones that are actually going to be hitting UFA, right? So stay tuned for next week's episode. But for everybody listening in right now, thanks for tuning in.